Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to everyone in 6A, 6B, and 6G. We're going to continue on with our poetry lessons on reading for meaning in poems. It is a skill, and we're going to use the strategy of reading the poem and finding out different things by doing it 3 times. So the first thing we're going to do is the first strategy of reading the poem itself. So the poem itself is called Two Chains. I'll start off with the first stanza or paragraph. A dragonfly flew by the pond to see if he could find a treat. He landed on a floating leaf and looked for little bugs to eat. It didn't see the frog that sat upon a mossy rock so still that thought the dragonfly might make a very, very tasty meal. Behind the frog there lay a snake who slithered quickly toward his prey, and in a tree there stood a hawk who thought a snake would make his day. Now, when a cow that just eats grass stepped in the pond to drink that day, a ripple moved the leaf and scared the hungry dragonfly away. The frog jumped in, the snake crept off, the mighty hawk took to the sky, and so their chance to have a feast came to an end and passed them by. The cow stepped out to eat more grass, but never even had a hunch that she became the only one who got the chance to eat her lunch. All right, so 24 lines, we've read it through. Now we're going to do the second read through, and the second read through looks at features. So the first feature I'm going to look at is the title. It's called Two Chains. Well, I know what a chain is. It's like a interlocking device that is used, and I also know chains from a connectedness in how a chain connects things. Like, for example, a food chain connects a bunch of different living things together. So that's an interesting feature in the title. So there's probably information about chains below here that may help us understand the poem better. Another feature that I would direct you towards is the picture, and we can see the pictures on the side show actual interlocking metal chains that we sometimes use to lock our bicycles or in tools that connect things. And we have these physical metal chains here, but then it's connected to pictures of the animals that are in the poem: a dragonfly, a frog, a snake, and then eventually below a hawk and also a cow. Now, if you remember grade 4, you did habitat unit in science, and you might remember food chains on how there is an interconnectedness with all of the natural world. So there's some information that we could also get from this as well, this interconnectedness or chains. Some of the other features of the poem, there's definitely rhyming patterns. Treat and eat rhyme. So the author does employ the use of rhyme. The author, there's more rhyme, pray and day. The author uses a feature here, very, very. That is a feature known as repetition. So the author is trying to make a point out of something. So it wants us to make a point about this tasty meal. We can also see that the author uses interesting language here. Make his day. Snakes don't really make their day. So what is this feature here called make his day? How do I make my day? Do you make your day? There's another interesting thing here. It has the mighty hawk took to the sky. Well, what does that mean? He took a part of the sky? No, it can't mean that. This doesn't make sense. So a lot of times when things don't make sense, like the mighty hawk can't take the sky, and going back here, snakes can't really make a day. These are strange lines, which are called idioms. They're used. The English language has thousands and thousands of them, and they're used to explain things. And the literal meaning doesn't make sense, but when we look into it, we understand the English language. We know that these are idioms, they're little sayings that are interspersed in our language. Um, and that's about it. There's some interesting words like hunch, that you may not know what that word means. You could look that up. I think most of the words you probably slithered, you probably know what that word is. It's not too difficult. All right, so let's get to the final um, read of the poem. The final read would be in this poem, would be, what is the meaning of the poem? Why did the author bother making this poem? Well, I think it's actually quite simple. Just based on the title alone, I think the author is trying to reinforce this theme about chains. And he does this, or she does this, not only through the title, but through the pictures themselves, which show an interconnectedness with all of the animals. So I think it's just showing how animals that are in the poem are all connected in some way to the food chain, about, you know, um, looking for food. They're all looking for food. Even the cow is looking for food in order to survive, and how there seems to be an interconnectedness between multiple organisms. They're all interconnected in some way. So I think that's the theme of the poem. So that's about it today. Again, when you're reading poetry, you got to do those 3 ways. You have to spend a little time on it because it's got a lot of information that's packed in there. Going forward, you just have a little Google form to fill out. Not difficult. There's just 10 multiple choice questions. When you work on them slowly. Don't rush through them. And don't answer questions where we never really studied anything. And that's a hint. So if it's one of the answers in the multiple choice are weird, and you're like, I have no idea what this is, then it's probably not the right answer. Go with your instinct when you answer multiple choice questions. I think that's about it for today. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and have a great Monday morning or afternoon or evening.